All right, guys, we are live, and this is our follow-up chat for aggression, which we talked about one other time, actually two other times, and one other time when I talked about it, it was horrible. The audio was really, really, really horrible. So I apologize for that. I'm going to remove that live chat, that live video, because it was really horrible. It was unacceptable for the quality I try to produce and put out there. So it will be deleted. If you want to watch it one more time, you can. But I'm going to delete it because I really was disappointed and very, very disappointed in the quality. So just to get things clear, I would love to give you guys more of a notice on these live chats. I can't because I'm really a prisoner to my internet here. And I have to go by when I have some internet speed. So last night I talked to Spectrum and they did some stuff on the modem. And I'm working on really the slowest internet possible. We have a very, very fast connection here, but for some reason with everybody home watching Netflix, it's just tanking. So if it gets really bad, I will jump off, but I'm hoping it's going to be a good chat for you guys. Furthermore, I'm doing this chat live now at 9 a.m. California time. And then at 10 o'clock, I'm going to go live again for my members only. So if you're a member, you can get in the member section is the private link. And I do that because, the members, those of you who are members, pay for a service, and I want to give you an extra bonus, an extra help. And like I said, yesterday, by the way, for everybody to know, I just released the first in the e-collar, electric collar series. And I really want to talk about that in the member section because it is an important thing that members have been asking me for forever. I mean, you guys have been asking about this for the longest time, and I've been working on it for a long time. And trust me, I just shot it last week and just edited it this week and up to last night. I was still editing it last night to get it up. But it's an insurmountable task because there's so much information to be had in there. So the e-collar series is live. Part 1 is live now in the members only section. I will do a really, really short version for YouTube for you guys to see. So anyway, those of you guys who are here already, we've got 90 something people in the room, 20 thumbs up. I really, really appreciate that. Today, hey, Pete, great to see you here, buddy. I probably will miss some people's comments. There's a lot of you are going to be in here. This is going to be a very, very popular chat. People are in from all over the world, Pakistan, Spain. I see you guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to try to keep my focus at the camera. I'm a failure at doing that because I always start reading comments, and I don't want to get into that. What I want to talk about today is aggression. And the last live chat I did was what I talked about aggression as it relates to dog to dog aggression. And Pete, who's in here as well, and I have worked a lot together in the shelters. He's been there with me to work with me. And we've seen a lot of bad behavior. When I was working with my friend Lewis years ago, we did a lot more other stuff. And I dealt with a lot of dog on dog aggression in the shelter environment. I've also dealt a lot with dog on human aggression, and that is dogs who bite people. That's really the topic for today's chat. Now we can kind of delve into it that some dogs are human aggressive as a reaction to Goofy Dwayne, stop it. They're over here playing like big knuckleheads, but that starts to get noisy. But I want to talk about dog on human aggression, my feelings about it, how to approach it, how to save somebody from it, potentially. Again, I'm not making any guarantees, but my tips for dealing with dogs that are human aggressive, my feeling on adopting dogs that are human aggressive. I should make notes on this, but I'm not gonna. Well, you know what? I'm gonna have a piece. I'm gonna tell you guys a big secret. See, this is an index card. It happens to be a pink one, a fuchsia one, but I love index cards. So I'll make myself some notes as I go, but dogs that are human aggressive, right? So I want to talk about that first and foremost. This is not going to go into anything where we talk about Malinois and German Shepherds and Rottweilers and Border Collies and Labs biting as puppies, right? That's not a topic. That's not today's topic because those dogs are not aggressive. Those dogs are being mouthy. Every puppy I've ever seen is mouthy. That means they put their mouth on your body because they're puppies. Just like a baby puts his, Anthony, good to see you, buddy. A baby puts his fingers into your eyes, and we don't think the baby's aggressive and want to put the baby down or smack the baby in the face for that. We don't want to act like that to a dog that puts its mouth, a puppy that puts its mouth onto your hands. It's critical that you understand that a puppy will do that probably for the first year of its life. For the first year of its life, it's a puppy. That's how it communicates. That's how it's communicated from the minute it was born and came out of the mother's womb. It was sucking on a nipple. I hope YouTube doesn't find me for that. But it was sucking on a nipple in order to sustain its life. So that's how it communicated, and that's how it will communicate until it learns another form of communication, which you must teach it. And if you start hitting the dog and doing all these things, then you're going to have a problem with that dog because you're breaking the communication barrier. So when dogs put their mouths on my hands, puppies, or when puppies put their mouths on my hands, I accept it. I let it happen. I take it away. When the dog is too drivey, I put the dog in a crate. I give the dog something to chew on. And that's really, really critical, that you kind of start to diffuse the situation, that you don't let the dog get all wound up and biting on you and doing all that. This way you can start to build a relationship based on trust. Just like a child, when it starts walking, it falls down. Sometimes it grabs some things. It might even grab the tablecloth and pull everything off the table because it's losing its balance. That's on you. So, hey, Laura, nice to see you in here. I haven't seen you in here in a chat for a while. Maybe I just miss you, but nice to see you in here. Janet's over here. She says hi too. So dogs that are human aggressive have severe issues, right? There's a serious flaw in a dog that's genetically bred to be the best friend, man's best friend, right? That's what dogs are. Dogs are man's best friend. They've co-evolved with us for thousands of years. Some people say tens of thousands of years. And suddenly they're biting their people. The dog has been domesticated. The dog has been bred for good temperament. So for a second, I'm going to delve into the idea that the dogs, like sport dogs, protection dogs, and even civil dogs are bred for that purpose. That means they don't see anything wrong with biting on a person. Now, a sport dog will. A sport dog tends to only bite on what we call equipment, a sleeve, a suit, or something like that. They're then conditioned off of that. So some people who want a dog for military purposes or police purposes or something like that, those people will need to get a dog that's more civil, a dog that has a little bit more of an edge than a protection dog. I want to get all this out of the way before I start talking about the aggression thing, because those things don't relate. And I know the questions are going to come in, but I don't want those to be confused with dogs that are seriously aggressive. Dogs that are seriously aggressive have severe behavioral issues. Sometimes some have mental issues. I've had plenty of dogs that have this kind of unprovoked, unsuspecting aggression towards people. And a couple of them have come up with things like brain tumors and things like that. Severe pain. Those are other things. Dogs that are poorly socialized is more from the behavioral aspect, and that can be worked on. So I want to delve into something really important, and that is that in the world shelters, I mean, I'm sure it's in the world shelters. I'm going to talk really about the shelters in the United States because those are things I'm very, very familiar with. Dogs in those shelters, there are so many really nice dogs, right? There's dogs that are zero issues, zero behavioral issues, zero issues, nothing going on. But what happens is people find the problem dog, the issue, right? The dog that bit a kid's face, that attacked a person, that did all these things, and that's the dog they're going to save. And that gets into such a huge problem for me because inevitably dogs will be killed in shelters, right? Because there's a space issue. And I don't care what anybody says, you know, there's always a space issue. If you go into the shelter, or not you, but I'm saying a person goes into the shelter with the intention to adopt a dog, the critical thing to understand is that if you take the aggressive dog, then a nice dog gets put down. Now, I'm not saying aggressive dogs should be put down, but I'm also not in favor of nice dogs being put down. So if somebody opts to take a dog that's aggressive, you're really ruining the chance for a nice dog to get adopted. In my opinion, you know, adopt all the nice dogs out of the shelters, and when there's no more nice dogs left, then let's start working on the aggressive dogs. If a dog has to be put down, it should be a dog that has had some issues, whether it's behavioral or whether it's medical causing those behaviors. That's a fair shot, right? That dog has done something wrong in its life. Put that dog down. And again, it's not easy for me to say it. I've only, advocated for a couple of dogs to be put down in my life, but those dogs needed it. Those dogs would have been severe, severe problems. So now, those dogs oftentimes get the bleeding heart, the social justice warriors, all these people who are going to try to do the right thing and try to be so holier than thou, like people who adopt meat dogs from China and rescue dogs from Mexico. All nice stuff, but solve your problems at home first. Make sure your kids have a warm meal. Sorry, that's Dwayne crashed through the baby gate. Make sure that your kid has a warm bed and a warm meal before you start feeding the neighbor's kids or the kids in the neighborhood or the starving kids in Mexico. That's important. I know some people are going to criticize me for it, and that's just who I am. So what I want people to understand is that if you're going to get a dog, get the best dog possible, because it's less work for you. It's less work for anybody who comes into your house. Any dog that has behavioral issues has the likelihood to bite somebody without really it being important. You're going to probably see me correcting the dogs over here. Janet's upstairs doing yoga, and I got Dwayne and Goofy, who are a handful here. I wish I could show you on the camera what I see, but Jimmy's bulletproof. So when we deal with human aggressive dogs, we deal with dogs that either provoked or unprovoked will bite a person, right? And when I say provoked, I'm really using that in the context of a dog that is redirected. So I've got my dog on a leash, and my dog goes off on another dog, right? Whether it's a playful or thing or an aggressive thing, and I correct the dog, and the dog just turns back and bites me. That's human aggression. And even though it's a redirected aggression, it's important that you understand that redirection is a danger, right? In other words, my dog, no matter what I do to my dog, he's not going to bite me. Now, that I should clarify that for a second. My dog's not going to, there's an old German saying, I'm stuttering here for a second, a German saying that says, even a mouse cornered will bite. If you pressure the dog and the dog's in fear for its life, it's going to bite. That's obvious. But your dog shouldn't bite you. And it shouldn't bite, my dog shouldn't bite guests in my house. My dog shouldn't bite my children. I don't have any children, but if I did, shouldn't bite my children, shouldn't bite my neighbors, shouldn't bite my girlfriend, my wife. Hopefully you don't have both. It shouldn't bite, my family members or anything. In other words, if I make somebody okay, then the dog should be okay with that person. Now, dogs that are poorly socialized to start with have suspicion aggression, fear aggression, stranger danger, whatever you want to call it. And those dogs are likely to bite out of suspicion. They usually don't bite unprovoked, but they usually end up getting cornered. They run away. They've got the tail between their legs. They're trying to get away, and then they bite. So the thing you're dealing with in that capacity is what we call fight or flight. And fight or flight is usually one of the biggest components of aggression, because a dog and this is really almost any animal, including a rhinoceros, will try to get away to avoid danger. I'll give you a great example. I was in Africa a few years ago, and there was an elephant. It was in Musk. It was ready to breed, and we were taking pictures of it, my friend Andy and I, and we were in front of it, and we'd move the car around and take another picture, move the car around. And the elephant was fine, wouldn't have had any problem with it, but we started getting in his way. The more we got in his way, the more irritated he became. And at some point, he didn't charge us, but he gave us a very, very clear signal that one more move in front of me and I'm going to kill you. And the elephant could have easily crushed the car and killed both of us instantly. But even that, I don't know how many, 10,000 pound elephant still is making the option to get away. And that's really the case with the dogs. Dogs aren't going to just come out of the blue and bite. And that's what I always talk about. The dog gives you a clear indication that it's going to bite you. And those signals are things that we often don't read. I'm working on a new program right now. I'm working on putting the entire Bound Angels University online. And that's going to probably happen in the next year or so. I've got somebody editing all the videos. We'll be building the site around that. And I talk a lot about the body language of dogs, because that's something that's really important for animal control people, rescue people, trainers in animal shelters to know. So that's going to be a course, an online course, real similar to my website, robertcabral.com, but this is going to be something different. So it's going to be the university course put online for people to sign up and train and to understand more about shelter dog behavior. Now, I will take questions today. I know there's going to be a bunch of them. If anybody super chatted me before, I didn't see it. I'm sorry. I've just been kind of rambling on, trying to get the camera going. I'm concerned about good audio and good video so that I can take that other horrible, horrible chat down. And again, I apologize for that. It should have never gotten to that. I was very frustrated that day, and it's one of my things. I get super frustrated easily. I just did a podcast where I talked about, my personal hurdles in life, and one of them is I'm like the ultimate perfectionist, and when things aren't perfect, I just beat myself up about it and get really, really frustrated. Anyway, something's making a lot of noise here. Oh, it's a hard drive. I might eject that hard drive so it doesn't drive me nuts. So anyway, I'll take some questions, and they're going to be totally random here. Like I said, at 10 o'clock, what is it, 9:20 now? At 10 o'clock, I'm going to go live for my members. There'll be a lot fewer people in here. We've got 150. Actually, we only have 158. That's not that many people. We usually do get, excuse me, it's not coronavirus, by the way. We usually get up to 200 people when I'm talking about aggression. So anyway. Just keeping some nice lemonade here to keep my whistle wet, so I don't choke on you guys. So anyway, I'll just take some random questions. Do me a favor, please don't post a question that doesn't relate to today's topic, because I'm going to read it and I'm going to go, oh, I can't answer that, and that's going to be unfair for anybody. So if you have a question, put it up there. Okay, just like I said. Sule, don't put a question up that doesn't relate to aggression. This topic is only dog on human aggression. That's the only thing I want to talk about today. I'll have more chats. There will be more chats, and I promise you, I will cover almost every topic that you want to hear. Promise. So, let's see. Okay. Okay, I don't see any questions coming in. So anyway, I'll just keep rambling on until I see a question that relates to dog aggression, and then I will address it. So let's look at the topic of hang on, Janet's here. Janet's got something for me to who is it right here? That question right there. Hang on, she's got a question for me, and the question says, Google account. My dog is super, super aggressive toward other people, but he never bites me when he's in his fits of rage. Is he trainable? Have you ever dealt with aggressive French bulldog? So I'm going to give you a great example. Actually, Janet, if you just stay there and show me those chats, I'm going to have Janet just hand me her phone when there's a chat. So it's going to be much, much easier. I will address super chats, but if you do a super chat, I appreciate it, but I'm only going to address it if it's relating to dog aggression. So, French bulldogs are notoriously human aggressive, and this is something people don't want to look at. And every time somebody says, "Oh, this person has a French bulldog, or that person has a French bulldog," they're really cute. I mean, I'm not into French bulldogs. I'll be honest with you; it's not my look. I'm more of a shepherd kind of person, and I like labs and mini dachshunds a lot too. But my thing is shepherd. So French bulldogs, because of their size, because they're cute, they rarely ever receive good training, because people who get them want a couch potato, and they become just that. They hang out on the couch, they get fed, they get petted, they get played, they never get structure, yet they are super, super, super dominant. It's a dominant breed. And I remember a friend of mine, Kyle, who trained a lot of Mastiffs and Corsos and stuff like that, used to say that the one thing people never understand is the aggressive tendencies of French bulldogs. So they have issues. Thank you. They're great dogs for your super chat. They have these issues, and they're not trained. So they're a very stubborn breed, similar to an English bulldog, any bulldog, right? An old English bulldog, and American bulldogs, or anything like that. They have those tendencies. So the dog is obviously, you're saying, is not aggressive to you, but is aggressive to other people. So what's happening is the dog is probably protective of you, which means the dog has had little structure from you, and that in and of itself is a problem, especially for a dominant dog like a French bulldog. So the first thing I would always start out with is to give the dog an immense amount of obedience. Every time a dog has a behavioral problem, I always revert back to obedience, obedience, obedience. Give the dog a job to do. The dog must sit. So in other words, if your dog is reactive to somebody, so the dog is going to go bite somebody, dog is first of all always on a leash. I don't like to always put reactive dogs on prong collars. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But when that dog is on a sit, somebody should be able to walk up, walk around, and if the dog leaves the sit, the dog gets in trouble for leaving the sit. The dog doesn't necessarily get in trouble for lunging at the person, which is a super huge infraction on a person's civil liberties and on a dog's future rights. Dogs are not allowed to do that. I've worked with these reactive dogs in shelters quite a bit, and a few in my private practice that have been disasters. Just complete nightmares. So you need to focus. Aggression is never fixable. So any trainers you see, and there's a lot of them on YouTube who say, oh, I fixed this aggression, I fixed that aggression. I can tell you right now, it's not. We don't fix things with dogs. It's not like a broken leg where we fix it. It's something we manage. We teach the dog a skill. We teach the what's that noise? Oh, can we close the door? They're doing construction next door, so that's why I keep hearing these things, and I think I'm freaked out thinking it's the computer, thinking I'm going to lose you guys. So it's not fixable. Aggression is not something we fix. Aggression is something we manage, we channel, we train. So that's that. Okay, so now Paul sent a super chat. He says, our 4-year Mal, ex-military, shows human and dog aggression. Her aggression is clearly triggered by prey drive, and she escalates as you turn and move away. Can this be corrected? I had a very similar Malinois mix that had that. So if you would turn around, the dog would jump up and bite on the shoulder. So that's a civil thing, right? That's a dog that was trained to be a civil dog. So in other words, when somebody's running away, they got to chase them. So you have to be careful with these dogs. And I would highly suggest some good basic structure on the dog and being very, very fair. So with ex-military dogs are very different than pet dogs. Pet dogs have this switch where you correct them, and eventually they just go, okay, I got it. Pet dogs have a lower threshold of that. Now, military dogs have a super higher threshold. And what they end up doing is they end up really going past those things. And they have to. Any dog that's civil has to go past those levels, because when they chase the bad guy, they're going to get. Hang on a second. I'm writing Janet a note. When they go after somebody, they then get triggered. In other words, the person's going to hit them, the person's going to run away from them, the person's going to punch them, the person's going to push them away, the person's going to do all these things, and they have to work past that. Right? Pet dogs don't work past that. So what you need to do, you need to build a very solid relationship with the dog based on what's fair. And it has to be this kind of a trade-off for the dog, so the dog understands what's fair. Military dogs are not the dogs that you're going to say, I'm going to dominate this dog. Excuse me. They're dogs that you have to get to a fair place with them. You have to be fair with them, and they have to understand that once you get into this, I'm going to dominate them, I'm going to flip them on their backs, you're going to get your face eaten off. So it can be corrected. It needs a really calm hand. You need to remove the stimulus. You need to introduce the stimulus slowly. And remember something, this is a dog that was bred and raised to be this aggressive, right? And I mean, kudos to you, Paul, for rescuing a military dog. God bless you, my brother, because those dogs are true heroes and they deserve a great life. They do not deserve to be put down like our government used to do. The fact that we bring these dogs back at great cost, to me, is worth my tax dollars more than almost anything. And it kind of makes my eyes water a little bit, because these dogs served our country just like our veterans. And I'm going to get all choked up if I talk about that, because we just had Memorial Day. Janet, you had another question for me? Okay, let's see it here. Okay, this is for Ashraf. Hi from Egypt. Unfortunately, where I live, most dog owners consider aggression necessity prestigious, but by just looks, can one tell if aggressive dog is serious or just barking as to bite? That's a brilliant question, and I do understand what you're saying there. Yeah, so dog aggression is a body language. Thank you, Aaron, for your super chat too. Dog aggression is, I get it. In Egypt and South Africa, in certain areas, there are huge, huge issues with safety. So you have these dogs to protect your life, and I get that. Um, a lot of people in your areas, not casting aspersions, but don't control those dogs. In other words, they think it's a machismo thing to let these dogs act aggressively. And when they act aggressively, sometimes that acting can turn into becoming aggressive. Now, the main thing you want to look for in a dog that is aggressive, I mean, dogs that are lunging and barking and doing all these things, those are signs of aggression, but they're also signs of a bluff a lot of times. Now, I'm not saying all the time. I've been attacked by plenty of dogs who were lunging and barking, and I've been attacked by plenty of dogs who were just sitting still. What I really look for, the number one thing, is the dog's overall body language, right? A dog that's very stiff, a dog that's very focused, a dog where the hackles are up, the tail is stiff, the body is stiff, the ears are very erect, if they have erect ears, that is, pointing forward. Those are all signs of dominance type aggressions. Dogs where their ears are pinned back and they lunge forward and lunge back are generally signs of dogs that are fear aggressive. So the easiest way to diffuse those kind of situations are going to be through calmness, right? The calmer you can be, the better that will be for your situation with the dog. Dogs respond to energy. So in other words, if a person's calm and still, most dogs are less likely to bite during those times. So if you see like police dogs, when they're in a chase, they're going after somebody who's moving quickly, somebody who's sweating, somebody who's in a heightened state of arousal. They're generally not going to get the person who's standing by and watching this, right? That's why civilians don't often get bit by police dogs, because police dogs are going for something that's in action, somebody who's running towards them or running away, someone who is either in a heightened state, adrenaline, stuff like that. So there was a question here. Little Ninja said something, these dog aggressive topics are super important. Good. I'm glad you like them. And thank you for your nice mails too. I really appreciate that very, very much. So, when you have a dog aggressive, an aggressive dog, I should say, you need to be super, super careful on how you handle that. Right? Most dogs, and again, I've done this a lot in shelters, you'll find a dog that's super, super aggressive, that coming at them, oftentimes will call their bluff. So in protection training and in real protection training, I'm not talking about sport dog training. In protection training, we will sometimes go at that dog and see if they go, oh, and back down, or if that lights them up. And a real protection dog should be lit up by that and shouldn't back down to that. Okay. Yeah, it's got another one here for me. Okay, this is for Megaran. How does someone respond if a dog approaches them aggressively? That's a brilliant, brilliant question. So when dogs are aggressive, first of all, the best thing is not to make eye contact, not to go forward at the dog. I always give the dog like kind of a side body posture more. I watch the dog. I don't put my hands in front. Dogs tend to bite whatever is in front of them. This was told to me by a person in animal control for many, many, many years. So whatever is in front of the dog will bite. And a lot of times, a really, really good thing to do is to keep your hands. You don't want to get bit on your hands. Your hands and your face are the worst places to get bit. So you want to keep your hands protected. You want to keep your hands to your side. You want to make no eye contact. You want to avoid the dog. Generally, it's in that tussle with the dog that things happen. You try to grab the dog grabs your arm, you yank your arm out, you grab him with the other arm, that hand gets bit, and it becomes this biting, tearing kind of a thing. I will say that if a dog gets my arm in their mouth, that arm is going to stay in their mouth and I'm going to jam it down their throat, because whatever I pull on, the dog is pulling on. It's like a live game of tug, and that's when the dog is going to have huge problems and cause more and more and more damage. Biting dogs, whatever's in their mouth, that's safe. That's the only thing, unless it's your face or your throat, that's what they got in their mouth. So if a dog gets me by the forearm or gets me by the leg, I'm going to choke that dog into that bite to prevent him from trying to bite anything else. So I don't want to say it because I don't want you guys, starting to become dangerous dog experts. Chris Gentle says, my white Swiss Shepherd is reactive when we meet individual people out on a trail. When in town with lots of people, he's fine. Is this normal, please? So white Shepherds, it's a runoff of German Shepherds, and it was a recessive gene, and now they've got it as a Swiss Shepherd. Um, they tend to be very nervy dogs. So where black shepherds tend to be very dominant dogs, most of the aggression I've seen in shepherds has always been from black shepherds. And most of the nervy things I've always seen in shepherds have been from white shepherds. So these are genetic things. It's not a racial thing like white dogs are nervous and black dogs are mean. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the genetics that make the dog. Just like certain dogs are more dominant, certain dogs are less dominant. Now, within those factions, you can still say, well, I've got a Swiss Shepherd that's super dominant, and you might. But what's happening with your Swiss Shepherd, and I've seen this before because I had a client who had a Swiss Shepherd, and it was almost the exact same thing. In a big environment, the dog is fine because the dog sees, oh, there's people, there's people, there's people, there's people. But the dog was still nervous around those people. Yet the problem always arose when someone would spook the dog. Someone would come up from behind or around a corner and all those things. And those are things you have to watch. And those are things you have to train the dog for. And the best thing to do is to try to keep the dog engaged so that that won't happen to the dog. Tony, in order to nip aggression in the bud, what are the early signs that should be addressed? Well, first of all, the first thing that should be addressed is proper socialization. Every single dog should meet a lot of people, should go to different environments. And, first of all, let's start out with good breeding. Good breeding, good genetics are going to be at the number one place for that. Someone who breeds a good dog is a lot less likely to have a dog with severe social defects. Then after that, the dog does need to be socialized. The dog needs to be socialized immensely, right? From early on. And I mean from 5 weeks on, from when the breeder still has the dog, people need to be handling the dog. There needs to be sound stimulation, sight stimulation, smell stimulation, and more. Once we get the dog out at 8 weeks, we start, and hopefully the dog's had its second series of shots by then, we start to get the dog into social settings with other people. We want to watch, always, I stress on this, don't get the dog on organic matter because you don't want the dog to get parvo or distemper, but you want to get the dog socialized. Places like Home Depot that allow dogs, parking lots, city streets, get it around people, get it socialized so that things don't spook it. All these things are so important early on, just like with children. Children that have good parents, that are raised well, oftentimes end up being better in society than people who are not. That's critical. We need to make sure of that. We need to give children a fair chance, and we need to give our dogs a fair chance. So proper socialization, good structured training, and watch for signs. Like if the dog is leery of, a lot of times if a dog is raised by a woman, it'll be leery of men because it's not familiar with them. It'll be leery of people like, for example, meter maids or the electric person or something like that. Things they don't see a lot. So people say, my dog hates people in uniform. Because it doesn't see people in uniform a lot. Oh, my dog is leery of Latino men wearing hats. Well, how many Latino men wearing hats are in your neighborhood? So one thing I do with my dogs is, I have friends of all races and sizes and sexes and everything. And I expose my dog to all of those every single time early on. Okay, Allison says, what do you do when you have told someone not to pet or go close to your dog because you can see your dog is getting edgy and showing signs that it will bite? Well, first of all, I don't let anybody just pet my dog. I hate the idea of people just coming up to my dog and petting it. It's not acceptable. I keep my dog on a close leash, and I just tell people, I said, don't pet my dog. And if they go to move towards my dog, I just walk away, because you're better off to be rude. Look at me. I've made a career of being rude. You're better off to be rude and have your dog alive than to be try to be nice and have your dog bite somebody, and your dog's going to get a bite history, or it might be put down for that. So be really careful with that. Okay, Jello, or I'm sorry, it's yellow. It's yellow Vibez, I think. Whatever, I don't know. Yellow. My 4-year-old Cane Corso will growl at me and show his teeth if I come near him while he eats. Well, that's not a good sign, Yellow. So what you need to do with your dog, if he's 4 months old, or he's 4 years old, that's 4 years old is really bad. He has obviously resource guarding issues, food aggression issues, and I addressed that and things, and he will probably bite you. And if he bites you, it kind of course is going to do some serious damage. I don't know. I need to know more about that, because I have no idea why your dog would do that. Did you just get him? Did you rescue this dog? Is it a feel-good thing? Or have you had him since he was a puppy? If you had him since he was a puppy and you didn't counter it then, it's not a good thing. But I mean, I would start out by maybe consulting a good trainer that would kind of work with you. I would want to see that behavior more before I said anything. But does he bite if you give him a treat? And if he doesn't show you that behavior, then I would just start hand feeding this dog and seeing if you can get around that. Because in my house, everything belongs to me. right? Except for Janet, I belong to Janet, right? But everything belongs to me. That means my dogs have no rights in the house, and that's a really good place for a dog to be. By the way, people always think, oh, dogs should have a right. No, dogs have no rights. I give them everything, but they have no rights to anything else. Okay, let me see what's here. Okay, JB Simmons. How does your attitude change when you have a dog get aggressive? What do you do for a correction, and how quickly will you reinforce good behavior afterwards? That's a great question. So I had a dog that was I had several dogs that were really aggressive. I had a dog named Zeus who was severely aggressive, and I rescued this dog, and I ended up placing him in a really beautiful home with the Deal family here in Southern California. They were wonderful owners to this dog, and this dog had tried to bite me. It attacked my Shar Pei. Um, my correction is always, first of all, to try to block the behavior, and if it doesn't block the behavior, to come down on the behavior. Aggression is something, with the exception of, like I said, a dog that I know is what we call a civil dog, a dog that has been trained, bred, and raised to attack humans. If it's just a dog with behaviors, then um, you come down on top of it. You don't allow it. You have to be more. In other words, my dogs fear, and I know this is a hard word to use in today's society because everybody's so politically correct, but my dogs fear my wrath of what they're doing wrong more than they enjoy the pleasure of being aggressive. Any dog that I've ever been with, that's just the way it is. I taught martial arts for years. I mean, and I had children in my classes from 3 years old and up, and I never yelled at a child in my entire life, because that's not a way to deal with it. Yelling is not it. I was just in control. I had a guy, Brian, teaching for me. And I remember one time he came out, and there was like, I don't know, 15 or 20 kids in the room, and they were just screaming, running around. He was yelling, stop it, lay down, sit down, stop, sit, everybody, we're starting class. And it was 10 minutes later, he couldn't get anybody to sit down. And I just walked out of my office in my uniform, and I sat down in front of him. I started breathing deeply. And within 5 minutes, everybody was in position. So you must rule your dog with your authority. And that authority must be fair, and it must be absolute. There's a quote for you. Your authority must be fair and absolute. That's going to be that's a t-shirt, Janet. We're making a t-shirt. My authority must be fair and absolute. And you know who's going to wear that shirt? Janet. Her authority is fair and absolute. Anyway. All right. Yeah. And she's wearing her Everyday's Training Day Maya t-shirt, which I don't have on now, but you might want to order. Go grab that one that's over there, Janet. Let's show it to everybody. Okay. Smitty, thank you for that super chat. I try to address super chats right away, because it's very nice that you guys do that. My ACD, which is an American cattle dog, Australian cattle dog, sorry, rides with me for work. He is very protective of the truck and me, which I like and want. The only problem is he will attack a perceived aggressor, even if that is me. How can I correct this? Well, yeah, it's okay if he attacks somebody trying to steal your truck, but you're still going to get sued for that. But he shouldn't attack you, and you should just make sure he has a command, like, hey, that's it, stop. Like any dog that is trained to do protection, they will know to stop. By the way, I just want to show you guys something here. This is the awesome, ever so awesome Every Day is Training Day with Maya. Is that cool or what? We've been selling quite a few of those. I love the shirt. I've got my own. I ordered myself a couple. So if you want to get one of those, go over to robertcabral.com and you'll see them there. Lee Farr, I suffer from anxiety. In a normal day, my dog is great, but if I get anxious, he thinks his job is to keep everyone away from me. He will bark. I lost you. Hang on. He will bark and lunge if someone gets close to me. Any advice on that? Yeah. So, like I talked about in my thing, I understand anxiety, I understand depression and stuff like that, and that is your dog's job. But you need to be fair to your dog, and this is kind of where dogs are so great. Like even with my whacked out issues of getting sad and depressed and obsessive compulsive and all those things. It's my dogs that always bring me back, right? If they're laying there and they do that, you need to get that dog to check back in with you, right? So the dog can't be aggressive, can't be assertive or anything like that. So, and it's your job to kind of help the dog do that. That's why a lot of times I don't like people having service dogs, because they do have these issues, and I understand those issues, and the dog doesn't know how to respond to that. So you need to teach the dog the skill and bring the dog back. Hey, no, we're not doing that. And use that as a tool so that your dog helps you in your mental issues, because that's what you need. You need your dog for that. This is a place where your dog can help you be a good emotional support animal or a good service dog for you. So what is Gerardo? If an aggressive dog is off leash or breaks off the leash and comes towards me and my dog, what is the best way to scare it off? What tools should I have? Well, if the dog bites your dog, right? There's a lot of things that there's a video that Anthony, I showed him, and it happened in New York. I forget if he said it happened in Brooklyn or the Bronx. I think it was Brooklyn. And it was this dog that was attacking this beagle. And it's still such a disturbing video to see because the beagle ended up losing his life afterwards. A dog that's coming at me, and I can only speak from my own self. So I'm not saying you should do this, right? So all my chats, I got to have a legal disclaimer because it's such a litigious society. I'm not saying, please do this. Unless I clearly say to you, do this, I'm saying to you what I would do. And if a dog came at me, I would come at the dog. That's really, really important, right? I don't allow a dog to come at me. Now, if the dog is, here's the two things. If the dog is aggressive, I'm going to get bit. But if the dog is fearful or responsive to a pressure or reactive to a pressure, the dog is going to run away. But if the dog is reactive to a pressure and I move to run away, the dog is going to bite me. So I'm going to get bit either way. The only way really I've seen to shut that down is to go at that dog. I've done it countless times. With real protection dogs, those dogs are dogs we train to work through that, right? We train them to work past that. So if a dog is coming at my dog, I'm going to get in its face. I'm going to yell at him. I'm going to clap my hands. I'm going to wave my arms. Hey, 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 hey. If I have a stick in my hand, I'm going to wave it. I'm going to smack it on my legs. If I have something like an air horn, I'm going to beep the air horn. That's a really good thing. Whistles can be good. Anything that you can kind of startle that dog for 1 second. And most dogs will respond to that because most dogs are pet dogs. Most dogs are soft, and most dogs don't really want that conflict. Connie, I know this sounds weird because it really young pup, but I have an 8-week-old pit mix that keeps growling at new people. Does this mean she's aggressive or she's just being a puppy? Well, growling alone, any one behavior alone is not an indication of a behavior. That's really important to talk about. And I talk about this at my shelter lectures all the time. The thing we look for is the overall body language of a dog. I break the body language of a dog down into everything from the tip of its nose to the tip of its tail, including ears, eyes, mouth, hackles, stiffness, tail wagging, growling, every single aspect of behavior that exists. Now, the overall picture, like I can have a dog growling and lunging at me, but the dog is loose and I see something different. Now, if you have a young pit and it's growling at people, I would really suggest socializing this dog early so you don't have to put the dog down. And I'm not saying that because it's a pit. I'm saying it because it's a dominant dog. And this would be, I would say, the exact same statement with a German Shepherd, a Malinois, Rottweiler, a Corso, a Mastiff, or anything else. The dog needs absolute socialization. The dog needs to see if an 8-week-old dog is growling, chances are it's confused, right? Unless it's a bad seed, unless it came from a really, really bad seed, the dog, chances are, is fearful. I would have the dog checked out by a doctor, make sure its eyes are okay and all that, because that will help you a lot in better understanding. Ashraf says, could harsh corrections ruin the dog-owner relation? Yes. Yeah, it's not only going to make a dog, harsh corrections, the dog's going to either work through them and become much more aggressive, or the dog is going to become so shut down that it'll become fear aggressive. It's going to be so fearful. And when you get into that realm with a dog, that's when a dog is fighting for their life, right? When a dog is fighting for their life, that's when you've got a serious problem. And I would rather deal with a dominant dog than a fearful dog, because fearful dogs are fighting for their lives and there's very little way to fix that. Lauren says, I'm so disappointed that you would condone breeding. There are so many dogs who need homes through adoption. People can't spend time training. A dog shouldn't bother having one, period. Now, I don't know if you believe that people should be breeding and having their own children, because there's so many children that need to be adopted, and that that in and of itself, that any person who has a child is a very, very selfish person, and any person who has a home and doesn't share it with homeless people is a very, very selfish person. And I'm so disappointed in you that you don't have homeless people living in your home, and that you might have children, and that your mother bred to have you. That's very disappointing in and of itself. So I like breeder dogs. I've never made a problem with that. Goofy came from a breeder. Maya came from a breeder. Boz was rescued. My Shar-Pei was rescued. But don't come on here with a holier than thou BS attitude and tell me that you're disappointed in me. First of all, I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to help people with their dogs. And breeders oftentimes do really great things. I love breeders, responsible breeders. And if you're talking about breeders who do things like, Craigslist breedings or backyard breedings, I never condone them anyway. So, but thank you for that opportunity to tell you how I really feel about breeders, because I think breeders continue a good breed of dog. They continue the genetics, and I think it's super, super important. Okay, I can't even pronounce your name, but it says, "Hi, Robert. My dog, 11-month-old Mutt, doesn't show any signs of aggression, but sometimes he steals food, and then he shows an aggressive side I've never seen before when I try to take it back." Yeah, so he's being playful to you, right? He's sneaking something in on you. So don't let your dog steal food from you. Make sure you set him up. What I do, I did it with Dwayne for a while because Dwayne would do things. Now, the other day, Dwayne did get on the counter and eat an egg, and that's just the way it was. I didn't tell Janet that. She just looked at me and said, "Well, how did that happen?" Um, but if a dog does that, you still need to come down on him. You should not allow that behavior. You just go work through it with your dog. Okay, Tracy, you're asking about e-collar for a correction. It could make it a lot better, could make it a lot worse. I think I answered Gerardo on that one. Yeah, I think I got that one. Thank God for Janet. You guys need to give a big thumbs up for Janet, because if you've only given me 107 thumbs up out of 223 people, you guys need to run out of the chat and give a thumbs up for Janet helping me, because I wouldn't be answering any of your questions. I would just be meandering and rambling on. What is this? Gerv, when I pet my puppy during playtime, he reaches back in my hand with his mouth. He doesn't nip. That's not an aggressive issue at all. Not at all. Not at all. Because, dogs, remember, dogs bark and growl. Cats purr, right? So that's a method of communication. It's a verbal communication they have. And dogs are very, very less likely to give a verbal signal. Everything with dogs is body language, right? When a dog growls, it's already way past the body language, and it has oftentimes not everything to do with it. Goofy will growl at me. I mean, it has nothing to do with the overall communication if you don't add it into the rest of the body language. Earl says, "I will be eternally grateful to know what a proper correction is for aggression episode. Example, larger dog going after almost full flight, smaller dog due to treats being handed out." Well, corrections, there's only so many things you can do to correct a dog. And correction is generally blocking a behavior. It's on a leash, and it is a pop on the leash. It starts with a pop on a leash, starts with a redirection on a leash. It can be anything, in the past. I'm going to give you an example of a correction that I've done. And I was at the shelter. I was working. And there was a woman who was an elderly woman. She was a frail woman, and she had a large dog. And Pete, if you're still in here, you can back me up on this. I don't know if you're still in here, Pete. But this dog launched out and bit another dog on the face, right? It got him on the face. Now, this would have been a severe, severe injury on this other dog. I took the dog. Dog was on a slip lead. I can't stress enough the importance of a dog on a slip lead. And I took some air away from the dog. I'm not going to say I choked the dog out. I'm not going to say I hung the dog, lifted the dog, did anything like that. I corrected the dog by taking some air away, by disabling the dog. And the dog dropped the other dog, saved the other dog's life, and saved this dog's life, because that dog would have been put down immediately. So getting a dog to stop behaving. And again, I can't come on here and tell you really what to do in a sense of a correction, because a lot of corrections can be very abrupt. And if you have people, whacked out people who can't even deal with me talking about rescue breeders because they're so nutty that, every dog in a shelter should be saved, then they're really going to get nutty if I tell you what to do in the form of a correction. I can tell you that I meet most aggression with dogs with a strong hand. In other words, I don't allow it to continue. And I've dealt with very large dogs, very powerful dogs, and very dangerous dogs. And I've, knock on wood, it's the closest thing I've got to wood here at the desk, I've never been severely bitten. And in my presence, in over 10 years, and again, Pete will back me up on this if he's still in here, I spent over 10 years in shelters throughout this country, 10 years. I have never had a serious injury on a person or a dog. I've never had an injury on a dog where, oh, he got away from me. I couldn't correct him. The treat didn't work. The clicker didn't work. The redirection didn't work. The air horn didn't work. Everything I do works because I save dogs. It is my goal. So yeah, I have breeder dogs, but I've saved more dogs out of shelters than most anybody you're going to ever meet. And that's how important it is to me. So um, I go back to my, my merits, what I've done. And corrections are that. Corrections are a redirection of making right what was wrong. And if you got to come down on the dog hard, you got to come down on the dog hard. It needs to immediately after, there's your answer. Once the correction is over, it's over. It's 100% over. And you need to make sure that you don't get bit, that you keep the other dogs safe. So if you're going at the dog, it's if somebody's coming at my house to hurt my dogs, my family, I'm going to stop them, and they might get hurt. But I'd rather be, judged by 9 than carried by 12, or judged by 12 and carried by 9. I don't know what that saying is, but it's a great saying. So, all right. Be fair with your dog, be firm with your dog, and be crystal clear with your dog. That's the other t-shirt we're going to make, Janet. Right after this, every day is training day. So listen, I've got to, every day is training day. There's Maya, the flying papaya. I got to jump off of here because I've been on here 51 minutes. I can't believe I talk so much. I mean, poor Janet has to listen to me all day and all night long. I think I talk in my sleep sometimes too. I'm going to jump off here. I'm going to do a live chat for my members only right now. I'm going to be heading in there. This was a long chat. And I think the audio was good on this. Was the audio really good and the video good? Janet says it was great. So I'm going to take down the other live chat that has the same thumbnail as this. So if you want to listen to it, do it. I'm going to take it down in the next hour. God bless all you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making my life great and allowing me to share these tools with you that can give your dog a better life, that can give all dogs a better life. And you know what? Let me tell you, if you're going to rescue a dog, God bless you. I respect you. I love you for it. I mean, I've helped so many dogs get out of shelters. I love it. Now, if you decide to buy a dog from a responsible breeder, give the dog a home for life, and don't support puppy mills. Don't buy dogs at pet stores or over Craigslist or these things. Search out a good breeder and and research it, because there's a lot of health testing that goes into that. Make that decision. It's a decision for life, for the life of that dog until the dog takes its last breath. That dog should be in your arms, in your heart, and in your home. It shouldn't be abused. That's the important part. Not a rescue dog or a breeder dog, but the life you give that dog. That's the important part. And I'm tearing up, so I'm going to get out of here before I start to cry like a little baby. Thank you guys for being here. God bless you. I love all of you guys. And I will be back soon. You'll see me again maybe in a week. How's that?